Hi, Paul.
Hi, Glenn. How are you?
Cool. Look, I'm good, and I'm really impressed to see the ultra capacitor batteries here.
Yep.
Tell me about them.
Okay, so this is a battery we designed and built in Melbourne.
Yep.
And it's made using some cells that we source from overseas, but everything else we assemble and make here. So all the batteries are connected using these heavy-duty copper conductors. This is 400
so
millimeters
everything
grade.
from the cell upwards you make.
Yep.
Wow.
And then if we want to join two cells together, we put one of these wires on, which is a 400 mil squared piece of copper. And the balancing wire goes through the middle there, through the hole.
So no terminals? You don't have to.
No terminals.
Have to crimp anything?
This becomes the last terminal on the battery, and then that goes off to your isolator.
Yep.
So the batteries are unique because they can charge in as little as 6 minutes and empty in 6 minutes.
6 minutes?
Yep.
What's the C rating there?
A 10C.
10C.
And it can burst for 10 seconds at 20C.
Wow.
So that's a 3-minute rate.
Okay. So what do you see the application of the UCB?
Well, one of the big features is the design life.
Yep.
So the design life of the cell is 30 years plus.
Yep.
And that's 35,000 charge cycles.
Yep.
And we're still 90% retention at the end of that time. So they don't really age. So when you buy one battery and you don't have to keep replacing it.
Yep.
Yeah, it does cost more than lithium-ion batteries.
Yep.
Traditional lithium-ion batteries, and it costs much more than lead.
Yep.
But on a cost of energy basis, it's cheaper.
So I noticed on your data sheets 25 to 35,000 cycles.
Yeah.
Wow. You'll never buy another battery.
No, you shouldn't have to. Yeah. The operating temperature is negative 50 to 60
Ah, okay. So for charging?
for charging and discharging.
You can charge at negative temperatures?
Yep, negative 50 to 60.
Is there a restriction on the charge rate?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Because this is a big discussion point at the moment about some of the lithium battery systems are having trouble charging at cold
it's cold.
temperature.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And because I live in a cold place, I notice it.
Yep.
We're seeing them throttling as low as 10 degrees. They're starting to throttle.
Okay.
So these won't throttle under cold temperatures.
No. But to keep the 35,000 charge cycle life, we recommend you try and keep the batteries below 25 degrees Celsius.
Yep.
But even at 55 degrees Celsius, they will do more than 6,000 cycles. If you
55?
If you sit them at 55 continuously.
Yes. Oh, that's pretty
So
unusual.
it's really abusing it.
Really abusing.
But yeah, if it occasionally goes over 50 to 55, 60, it's not really going to shorten the life much.
So you've got them in a rack mount here. They can be in any orientation?
Yeah, they can lie down flat.
Flat?
Like this is on just a standard Bunnings rack, which is quite inexpensive.
Wow. Okay.
And you can stand them up because they're the same shape as a lead acid battery.
Yep.
So you can replace them in the existing lead acid battery boxes in the field. Each module is 2.2 kilowatt hours, and that's usable 2.2.
Okay, so 2.2 kilowatt hours per module, and they come in different voltage options.
Yeah, the highest voltage is 27.6. There's 18.4, 13.8, 9.2, 6.9, 4.3, and 2.3.
Okay.
And then as you series them up, you get up in voltage and you get up in energy. So you series in parallel.
You've got an incredibly flexible range of options.
Yeah, you can go up to 800 volts. So there's a 800 volt, 800 amp DC fuse in here.
Yep.
So I can show you a load test here if you like. On this little multimeter here
Yep.
is a current clamp. You can see that all right?
Yep.
So I've got a handful of quartz halogen globes on the end of the stand. I'll just flick it on.
Lights, I think. Whoa.
So that's running at 500 and something amps there.
Of how many batteries?
One battery.
One battery.
One battery's doing that here.
Just this one battery
This
here?
one here, yeah.
Oh my God.
And that's a 13.8 volt one. So 13.8.
500 amps coming out of that.
Yep, so 520 amps by 13.8 volts is about 6.5 kilowatts.
Okay.
So that'll empty that in about 20 minutes or so.
Right. Cool. And you can recharge it in as little as 6 minutes.
You can. You're better to charge it a little bit longer, like maybe half an hour.
Yeah, not many people have a charger that can charge at 500
Well, because
amps.
it also you get a bit of heat, because the internal resistance of all the conductors, they'll make a bit of heat and you want to keep it cool. So
Yeah.
it's better to charge it a little bit slower, but it can charge fast and discharge fast.
Great. So is there a special communication protocol to work with some inverters and not others?
Not really needed because the batteries talk amongst themselves to try and get the cell voltages the same.
So it's a self-managed battery?
Yep. But there is a cable that comes out the end. Looks a bit like this here,
Yep.
which plugs into a little PCB.
Yep.
And that PCB monitors if any cell is high in the whole network,
Yep.
and then it reports back with a close contact to an inverter to tell it stop charging.
So you can use these as a lead acid replacement.
Yep.
Let's call it a dumb battery.
Yep.
With self-managed safety built in.
Yep.
Or you can connect it through comms system to an inverter and get reporting on state of charge. And
Yeah,
safety and
you
temperature.
are recommended to connect it to an inverter to tell it to stop charging.
Yeah.
Especially if you're charging really hard right up to the last minute, because
Yep.
the balancer can only correct it at a certain rate.
Okay.
So if you're charging really fast to the top level and the balancer can't keep up with one cell that might have been a bit high,
Yep.
it starts to get high really quickly when it gets full.
Yep.
So you want to know about that and then tell the inverter stop charging, let the balancing catch up. That's really only at the last 99% point.
So is this just a simple digital signal like stop?
Yeah, it's close contact.
Close contact. So it's not
Yep.
like a CAN bus communication protocol
No.
that can take you years to get integration with?
No integration. As long as you've got an input that says stop charging,
So you
I
need
think
an
most
inverter
inverters
with
have it.
a please stop.
Please
Okay.
stop inverter, yeah.
Wow.
And there's also a electronic cable that comes off that box,
Yes.
which gives more information to the inverter. Like it goes into the analog port,
Yep.
and that lets us measure the voltage of the high cell and plot it on the graph using the Emacs.
Gotcha.
So you can see how often this happens.
Yeah.
So it may not ever happen really, but it could happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So UCB, ultra capacitor battery.
Yep.
Model
Sort of
numbers.
half capacitor, half battery, we call it.
And you're giving them some special
Yeah.
model names?
UCB 27.6,
So based on the voltage.
2.2K.
Gotcha.
UCB 13.8, 2.2K, and so on. They're all 2.2 kilowatt hours.
Right. So when you order them, you choose the ones to suit your application.
Yeah, and there's a graph on the brochure that tells you how to choose to suit the inverter, because the voltage window on inverters often is quite broad, but they actually sometimes like to work at a narrower voltage window than they say they can.
Yep.
Like an SP Pro says 100 to 170,
Yep.
but they say you should really be at 120 to 170.
Gotcha.
So then if you took, say, 13.8 volt unit and you put 10 in series, you get 138 volts.
Gotcha.
That the nominal range is 120 to 165. So that works really well with SP Pro.
10
So,
of these.
so 10 of these are 13.8s. But if you don't want that much energy, say 22 kilowatt hours, you could use 5 27.6s
Yeah.
and you'll get 11 kilowatt hours, and then you can parallel that. So you can have 11 kilowatt hour modules that parallel down until you get the energy you want, or you can have 22s that parallel down.
So it's expandable as well.
Yeah, you can expand later on because there's almost no degradation over time.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about the mismatch problem of batteries getting old and not being allowed to parallel with them.
Yeah.
So there's almost no degradation in the first 10 years.
Wow. So you could start with as little as one battery on a 12 volt system, or a
24 volt.
27.
Yep.
Okay.
So you do
two
it.
batteries gets you to 48,
Yep.
and then you can start paralleling as you wish
Yep.
to get the capacity you need.
Yep.
And at 500 amps coming out of one, I mean, you just straight away.
Up to 800 amps. Yeah.
That's 800 amps.
So if you put one of these on a SP Pro, for example, or a Victron,
Yeah.
or let's say an SP Pro, because I know the numbers off the top of my head, they
Yes.
can peak at 12 kilowatts AC out,
Yes.
a 4.5 kilowatt one.
Yeah.
This battery can peak at 20 kilowatts DC.
One battery.
One battery, so it's already more powerful than the inverter, so therefore one battery is enough to give you UPS type function on a house,
Yep.
but only 2.2 kilowatt hours of energy.
Because it's one of the challenges with using lithium batteries, for instance, off grid, is the limited surge capacity. So
Yep.
you're back to having the benefit of lead acid,
Yeah, unlimited
but
current.
with the cycle life of UCB. So
Yep,
amazing.
exactly. Yeah.
And they don't
And-
care if you don't fully charge them.
And also very safe. You can actually cut the cell in half with a saw while it's still on and it won't catch fire.
Oh, I've seen the
And
videos.
you can nail it, you can punch it, you can cut
Yeah.
it.
So it's actually one of the safest technologies.
It's very safe here, and there's no SEI layer inside,
Yep.
so that there's no risk of a dendrite growth between the anode and the cathode that you
Yep.
have with other battery types.
Yep.
So you don't have that thermal runaway risk,
Cool.
which means it's safer to put in places that need safety, which is pretty much everywhere really.
Yeah.
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 Well, thank you, Paul.
Yeah, sure.
It's been really interesting. I'm looking forward to playing with them.
No worries, thank you very much.
Okay.
mate. Bye.